Now to set the context, I'll have to take you on a time travel around 25 years back. To be precise, year being 1995. The first website which launched in India was redef.com in 1996. Now think before that, what did businesses do to give out an official statement, a product launch, or a promotion campaign? It was either a newspaper or electronic media such as radio or television. All official communications used to happen through letterheads, right? That is how you could give it the authenticity, because that information is printed on a company's letterhead. Slowly that changed. Small businesses started creating web pages because creating a website was really costly at that point of time. Right? Today, you will not trust a business which does not have a website. No website equal to no trust. Today, we have close to 564 million total internet users, right? Not sure how many of you know that over 70% of them don't speak English. This non-English internet user base is going to become 536 by next year. Another misnomer which people have in mind is that they think these 500 million plus people live only in the villages. No, sir, that is incorrect. They live right among us, in our cities, in our towns. They watch the same TV commercials, movies, have similar aspirations as you and I do. We just saw when lockdown was announced how these people migrated and are still migrating back to their hometowns. And that's only one small portion of this universe. So my question to all the participants is fairly simple. What are you doing about it? Would you not want to engage with these 536 million potential customers? Would you not want to sell them your products and services? And if your follow-up question is, how do you do that? Then my answer would be listen to a panelist and wait for the product launch. Now to start with, I would like to call Arvind, who's our CEO, and share his thoughts on how he sees Indian languages becoming an integral part of our digital platform. Hi Arvind, over to you.
Thank you so much, Rajesh. Namaskar and good afternoon to you all. Thank you for taking our time to learn about Reverie and what we are doing for the Indian language industry. It's an irony that it takes a pandemic like this for us to talk about the concept of Atmanirbharta or self-reliance. It's not just India, but countries all over the world are talking about the concept of self-reliance. Being self-reliant means depending on local languages or our own languages. Indian languages could be as local as they can get. Before I share about us, let me ask you a question. What would you term a language like Hindi, Marathi, Bengali, Tamil, or any other Indian language? Most Indians actually call these languages as vernacular. Do you know that English is actually vernacular to Indians, not the Indian languages? That's because when British ruled us, they coined this term vernacular to differentiate between English and the languages that did not belong to them, which were the Indian languages. It's been close to 75 years since our independence, and English has become our primary language in India. It is time that we started taking pride in our languages as well. All along, we thought that English was enough for India until this pandemic hit us, where the power and might of Indian languages came to the fore. We quickly realized that to be able to disseminate credible information, create awareness, reach every nook and corner of India, reach every citizen of India, and to educate them about this pandemic, English was not enough. We had to rely on Indian languages to be able to do the job. And it is not a surprise that that was the case, because despite English being an aspirational language in India, even today, not more than 4% Indians can claim that they can rely entirely on English and not need any other Indian language in their lives. For India to be Atmanirbhar, language has to play a very key role in making India inclusive. And it cannot continue to become the reason for cultural and economic divide. It's not a choice of English or Indian language that I'm talking about. I'm talking about coexistence of both English and Indian languages, and not the continued growth of English at the expense of Indian languages. I'm really happy to tell you that we have been very proud to be working on Indian languages for over a decade right now, with a singular mission that internet becomes equal opportunity, provides equal opportunity to every citizen of India, irrespective of their language preference. We want the internet in India to be as empowered for non-English users as it is empowering today for the English language users. We were the first company in the world to build support for Indian languages on Android way back in 2011 and get it into the hands of the users through our partnership with Qualcomm. Since then, very passionately and enthusiastically, we have been working on several other technologies related to Indian languages, be it machine translation, speech to text, text to speech, search in multiple languages, among many others. In last one decade, our technologies would have touched a minimum of 200 million lives in India. And we aspire to touch at least 500 million Indians through our technologies in next 2 to 3 years' time. Today, we have an interesting product launch. You will hear about that as we proceed. We all know the power of languages in building trust. If you want to reach out to your users who are non-English speaking, yet they may be your potential customers, please do reach out to us. Thank you once again, and Dhanyavad for joining us today.
Thank you, Arvind. Thank you for those thoughts. So as I had communicated earlier, now we'll move over to our panel discussion. Let me start by introducing our esteemed panelists. Our first panelist is Ram. Ram is a founder and CEO of Boonbox. Boonbox is in fact pioneering the e-commerce in rural space, and currently they serve around 16 states in east and southern part of the country. A warm welcome to you, Ram. Our second panelist is Mekin, and Mekin is the founder of Udyam Learning Foundation. Mekin used to be the head of HR for Flipkart earlier. Now he's an angel investor, advisor, and a board member of a lot of companies. A warm welcome to you as well, Mekin. Our third panelist is Arvind Pani, and you just met him. Our fourth panelist and also the moderator for our panel discussion is Upendra. Upendra has held senior leadership roles in companies like Bharti Axa and ICICI Bank. Interestingly, he is also a best-selling author and hosts a podcast called Pathbreakers. A very warm welcome to you as well, Upendra. And with that, I hand over the floor to you.
Hi, good afternoon, folks. Namaskaram and Namaste, I think, would be appropriate. So what we're doing today is in the context of the discussion on languages. 3-4 of us are essentially going to jam on a few subjects in the context of language and the need for languages to be developed in the context of accessing the internet and different other things associated with it. So I'm going to start this off straight away, and I'm going to request Ram. Now, we have a very interesting panel between Mekin, Ram, Rajesh, and everyone, right? So Ram, you operate in a world which is different from what many of us are used to, which is very English oriented. We have an Anglo hangover. So my request to you is, A, if you could quickly tell us what your business is about and how you operate business without really English, and give us a peek into your world.
Thank you so much, Upendra. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Yeah. So, Boonbox is focused on rural markets. So we're a very unique business because our markets start where the markets end for most of the big players, right? So we are focused on 30,000 population towns and below. So effectively, you're really talking of really the bottom of the pyramid in terms of geography, right? So we start with the 30,000 population towns and go up to the village level, or even up to the smallest hamlet. So we take orders from customers in these villages and deliver products to them. And the products include even durables like smartphones, white goods like televisions, refrigerators, washing machines, and cooking appliances, FMCG, and so many other products. Right? Now, when you understand where we are, that is rural India, you'll really understand that English goes out of the equation. So English is not even in the reckoning. It's only for us to do business with at the level of webinars like this, or do business collaborations and talk to our investors. But every other conversation that we have is only in the local language.
Okay, so Ram, thank you for that. And what I liked about when we spoke about this earlier was, for you, English really doesn't come into the vocabulary. And why that's important is, I think for many of us who are sitting where we are, very important to be connected with that part of India where English is not integral to their day-to-day life. Now, tell me something. Of course, the conversations happen in English, in languages other than English. How are really the interfaces? How are the technology that your channel partners, your employees, your customers are accessing? And how have languages penetrated there? And do you see any opportunities in languages beyond English?
Oh yeah, see, I see massive opportunities over there. So firstly, Upendra, I must tell you, this is not so much about connecting with the consumer, because that's more something that's very transactional. At least it comes to me as very transactional, because this is how businesses speak. But for us, it goes beyond that, because the rural consumer is, trust deficit. So rural across the world is, you have populations that are deficit of trust. So I think local language is a way of winning the trust of the consumers to begin with. So for us, it's very fundamental. In terms of the interfaces, in my opinion, there can be no interface that has any element of English or anything that is not in local language at all, right? And which means that starting from the app to any kind of telephone communication that we have, to the receipts and the invoices that we give to customers, to the instructions that we give them, every single thing has to be in local language. Now, so the two parts really are that, except for pictures which are anyway language neutral, I think everything else has to be in local language. I would love to tell you that that's the case in with Boonbox, but it really isn't. There's a lot more that we can do, but there is, I think, those apps where we have the maximum interaction are already in local language. Number one, we would over time also want some kind of voice interface in these apps, where people can hear their language being spoken. I think that would be just as powerful as text being in local language. The reality also is that not everybody can read. Therefore, voice is a very, very powerful tool to use in terms of communicating well with customers.
So Ram, as a marketeer, I think I made that mistake very often. We keep talking about customer empathy, but the reality is language is one of the key pillars for empathy. And that's one of the fundamental tenets. So on that note, I'm going to move the conversation to Mekin to just get a different perspective. So Mekin, I envy you because you've been in an environment like Flipkart, amongst other things, and now you're into Udyam, doing some amazing, phenomenal work. Tell me in a more contextual sense in terms of where India today is in the context of COVID and everything else. You had some very interesting insights in terms of the language barrier and the challenges for language translation. Can you give us a quick peek into what you've been experiencing over the last few months, and what do you think is the urgency and need for crossing this divide on a very rapid basis?
Thank you, Upendra. Happy to be here on the panel. So I'll take you all to not so far back, not as far as where Rediff started, which is a few decades back, but just about 3 months back, and it feels much longer than that. This is early March. And some of us were starting to see what was happening worldwide and what had just about started happening in Kerala and a couple of other places in India around COVID, and start getting together as a group to discuss what could we do about it. And these are just bunch of entrepreneurs with the hope and audacity to think about like, kuch kar sakte hain, right? That we can do something. We got together, and one of the things that the group immediately took up was that all the communication that was happening about COVID was primarily in English. The Ministry of Health was putting out fairly detailed circulars and guidelines, but they weren't in a language that people could understand, and a lot of people needed to hear them rather than read them. I think with those two core insights, there was a volunteer group around communication that got formed, and that started taking up content from all over, specifically Ministry of Health, and translating that, but not just translating it, also simplifying it, making it palatable, and making it something that a user would connect with. So you use the word empathy, and language was the starting point. That content had very, very short time, we were able to get that to happen in about 15 languages. The other thing that happened was, in this time of distress, there were call center lines, and manning call center lines with people was becoming increasingly hard as the load on them became really, really hard. So one solution that came up was to be able to use IVR systems. But IVR systems allow you, or allow the user, to navigate a set of options so that they can be redirected to the right option in a language. And initial IVR languages were all, or initial IVRs that got created were all English. And Reverie came in and helped with voice-based translation to enable the IVRs to start moving to local languages. So for Assam, it being in Assamese, and for others, like the specific language. I think, to me, what this showed was, if you need to reach a very, very large audience in a very large part of India, which in times of COVID, it was essential to reach, you have to design in local language. Right? And I think not just think and design or put it as a later layer as translation, but actually design in local language for it to be effective. So that's a very recent journey that I've just lived through, and a learning that I'm going to hopefully live with.
So Mekin, why I like the COVID example for lack of anything else is Ram raised upon the pillar of empathy. When you come into areas like even basic social impact, emergency, and care, the need for language is amplified like crazy. Now, this is a question I'm going to pose to both of you, and I want your quick responses on this. If you were to look at the next 3 years, be it in the context of Ram in his business, or Mekin, if you were to take the context of social impact forward, what do you think are the 3 primary things which are the areas rather are the ones which would be most likely get impacted, and those should be the ones which leaders Ram?
Upendra, I lost you for the last 10 seconds or so.
Sure. So Ram, my question was, as a business leader, which are the 3 areas that you would like to pick on to amplify the impact of language? So that is pick.
Yeah, so clearly I will talk about my business itself, because we are completely rural, and therefore we need to be local completely. So firstly, I think very clearly, use of apps, right? Everything that is to do with technology has to be in local language. Number one. And number two, we actually run a customer service team. They hate to be called a call center team. So I'll not use those words. And there they actually speak the languages of the 16 states that we're in, plus local dialects, right? So I think what we would really need is customization. We need customization because of the nature of rural and the nature of different geographies. We will probably want voice to actually come in. So we would want apps which also have an element of voice in them. And we would want either the, the voiceover or the videos to actually be in local dialects. So effectively what I'm saying is that anything that's written, be it in terms of an app or in voice or a bill or anything that goes to the consumer, has got to be in local language clearly, number one. Anything that is spoken communication, be it through telephone or through a video or anything that happens through a mix of these through the app, has got to be in local dialect, not just local language.
Okay.
Thanks, Ram. Mekin, over to you.
Before I answer the question, I'll quickly give people a flavor of the work we do. We work with state governments to build curriculum around entrepreneurial mindsets. Right? And in the process, so one, there are, for example, they're inspiring stories of entrepreneurial grit, commitment, etc. And while we think about, a lot of people think about translating those stories, we actually have a term for it, which we call transcreation. That if you want a story of grit in Assam, right, the story has to be local. The story has to connect with the readers. So not only does it have to be in the local language, it has to be in the local dialect. It also has to have characteristics or cultural characteristics that would resonate, that people in the audience would connect to. So in my mind, I think that is one, which is deep personalization and using a significant amount of transcreation, not just translation. Second is use of voice as well as video as key platforms for exchange of information. We are far too textual today. The country isn't, and our YouTube consumption and our video consumption or Netflix consumptions are good indicators of what's already telling you that just how much we as a country love video and how dependent we are on audio. So these two technologies being key levers that businesses start using. Very few businesses today use audio and video. And the third is, I think, just growing penetration of internet and the fact that a large and a growing number of people have devices to be able to use that internet well. I would think that, hey, these three are key areas that any business, so personalization and customization using transcreation, being able to use internet, and yeah, so I think these are the three that I would push for, that every business should think about.
So Mekin, I think it's been stated brilliantly. Translation is possibly not even one leg of it, but truly and genuinely thinking from that culture, from that context, and creating and whatever you're doing is very fundamental. I think I personally have not been able to do it as effectively as I would have liked, which brings me to my final question to both of you in the interest of time. Quite often the challenge for many leaders, change makers, entrepreneurs, leaders, has been in terms of making a business case. So if I manage an internet banking site or a digital insurance site, quite often the question would be, what is the investment required to make this in a Hindi or a Telugu or a Tamil, and how can you justify it? Any insights and what has worked for you? Tips and insights, because I think that's fundamental for businesses to be able to start looking and adopting technologies and moving the needle on these. Ram?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question, Upendra, because I feel slightly guilty when you really raise a question like this. So, we are a company which is completely local. So we recruit people from, the relevant geographies. They speak only the local language. Yes. But believe it or not, I've had challenges in, investing monies in language. So I really think, I just feel a bit guilty because I think I should have put my foot down, been far more aggressive about that. It's ridiculous that a company where everybody on the field speaks the local language, mostly they are from the respective communities. The customer service team, like I said, even speaks dialects like Bhojpuri, Sambalpuri, and Bodo. But our technology is not entirely in local language, right? So to me, I mean, if I had to be very direct, I think it's a failure of leadership. Without that, we cannot really call ourselves a truly rural company. So if I had one thing to really say, it's that you really cannot expect the functional heads to take a call on this. They're not going to relate to it because everybody works as a silo. It's the, it's a CEO who's got to put his foot down and say that, I want this in local language. That nothing in this company, and if I'm working with, consumers who really need to be spoken to in local language, nothing in this company should ever be in English. I think that should come from the leader. It cannot come from any functional head, no matter how senior he or she is.
So I'll take a different angle to this, right? And I think talk about the power of inclusion and how I've made business case for that in the past. Right? That one is obviously just the reach. That if you're more inclusive, whether it's language or in gender and other forms, your reach increases. Right? The number of potential candidates you have, the number of potential customers you have goes up. And that's a no-brainer by itself. But I think the most powerful use case I have found or business case I have found with being more inclusive is being able to create far more robust systems, products, designs that work for a lot more people, that work in many situations and circumstances. So robustness in design coming from diversity is, in my mind, the strongest business case for including both different facets, different cultures, different languages.
Megan, amazing insights. So Arvind, I have not been keeping you silent by design. The conversation went on a very interesting sphere, but I think we bring it at a very interesting juncture to you. So what we as outsiders to Reverie are basically saying is, one is vehemently there is a huge need for building empathy. Second is the need gap in terms of social impact, care, assistance is large. Third is, honestly, I think we are struggling genuinely about a business case and so on. It's got to be a leap of faith possibly, and having a larger vision of inclusion. Now, you've been around in this space for a very long time. How do you see the needle moving in the coming few years, and what's up your sleeve with Reverie?
Well, so the most interesting thing about this one is when we started about 10 years back, the realization of the importance of language is a lot more obvious than it was at that time. And when we started with this mission of language equality, which means language equality on the internet and making internet, like I said, equal for every user in India. Now that mission of ours has not changed. In fact, right from the beginning, we had this this objective that even though we are taking the route of technology, but we are essentially solving a problem of user engagement, and we wanted to build the entire gamut of technologies that could have that could address various aspects of user engagement, right? Starting right from if a business wants to engage with their end users, then starting right from content, how content can be made available. Then we spoke about various kind of user interfaces, right, through text and speech. So we have been working on both text and speech, including taking inputs through speech to text, and then mentioned about the telemedicine, where the turnaround time to make the telemedicine up in multiple languages was reduced by more than 90%. Right. So those are some of the things. So today, interestingly, we have we have a product launch, which is Anuvadak, and that is meant specifically for websites being available in multiple languages. Now, when suddenly because of COVID, everybody is talking about digital and businesses are more focusing on digital. So digital becomes an important gateway for our consumers. And language cannot be a barrier where users, if they don't understand English, they feel not being welcome into our business. So that is the product launch that we have. And it's a perception that launching a website in multiple languages, it could be time consuming, it could be expensive, and it would require deep technical knowledge. Now, in few moments, you will see that using Anuvadak, you can easily, very quickly have your website live in multiple languages, and it's very easy to do it and does not really require deep technical knowledge. And that aside, we have been working with enterprises, we have been working with government. G2C is an important focus for us. And like I said, we aspire to touch at least 500 million Indians through our technology to make the engagement happen in their own languages. So very simple examples I can give you is that, so income tax filing information doesn't come to citizens in Indian languages, right? Now, we had an initiative where linking PAN card to Aadhaar was there, and that did not come to every citizen in their languages. As simple as our banking transaction, our ATM transactions, credit card, debit card transactions, they don't come to us in local languages, right? So there are many areas where we can touch upon, and we are pretty excited about what's happening right now and what's in store in the future.
Okay, Arvind, thanks so much. On that note, I wanted to thank Ram and Megan as well. Amazing conversation. Thank you all for having me. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Upendra. And I would like my colleague Rajesh to take you all through the product launch we have in store for you. Over to you, Rajesh.
Sure. Thank you, Arvind. Thank you, Upendra, to all the panelists. But I actually wanted to add one thing to what Upendra said. It's actually not about a leap of faith, Upendra. The data speaks for itself. The numbers are so large. The numbers, there are two end of extremes, right? The numbers are already double of the English speaking user base. So this market already exists. Certain businesses have taken initiative, and they have realized that they cannot service the market unless they adopt languages, right? We have clients like Ola, we have clients like Practo, we have clients like Vijaya Bank, who are the early adopters who realize that to move forward this is going to be critical. So I just wanted to add my 2 cents to that, and thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you joining us.
Thanks. All the best.
Thank you. All right. So moving on, let's have a small AV. Amit, could you please cue the AV in? Thank you, Amit. Thank you for that. Uh, while this AV was playing, and I was just, going through the discussion which was happening, and that reminded me of a conversation I had with the CIO of a company some time back. And I remember he said there is, enough time to address this new market. We can always do that at a later stage, but guess he did not realize that this pandemic of COVID-19 was on our doorsteps, and it'll actually rewrite, the way existing businesses, operate, how they take care of the distribution, how they take care of the the customer acquisition. Everything will now need a digital push, right? And there'll be certain organizations who will move faster, and they'll get success, ahead of everybody else. But now it has actually become a race, big time. Moving on, I would like to introduce Vivek. Vivek is our CTO and co-founder, and Gaurav. Gaurav leads our product portfolio. Both of them will initiate a product launch, and also take you through its key features. Hi, Vivek, Gaurav, over to both of you.
So, thanks, Rajesh, and a very warm welcome to everybody. I hope you have been enjoying the discussions that are so engaging, and it's really fortunate for us to be able to release and launch this product and have you all to be witnessing the same. I am usually very fond of giving small children examples or examples relating to small children, but finding analogies in adult life. So let me try giving this example. So when I took my son to school for the first time for his admission, he was a little boy, and it was very difficult for him to get into school. He started crying, and that's probably what most parents face when they take their children to school for the first time. So day after day, about 2 or 3 days, the child was crying very heavily. But in a few days from there, it would be impossible for the child to be at home. They would start longing to be in school. So that is because they have seen what it is like to be in school. And that is a basic human nature that remains with us. It's like we stay with the inertia of what we have been doing all the time, and most of the times fail to see what it is at the other end, unless situations force us, when we resist for a while, but then our eyes open up to things that are so different, and then we realize, oh, this is what we should have been doing all the time. So maybe these current situations have also brought us to some such realizations. But at the same time, indications of the same were that we had always been seeing. And there was a very interesting joke that I had read once, that a little boy asks his father that, "Papa, ye burger kya hota hai?" So that the father says, "Vada pav ko English mein burger bolte hain." So while that was a joke, 2 days ago I read in a blog of my colleague Tushar, where he brought out that same joke is now a reality, where McDonald's had to introduce aloo tikki instead of patties, because patties is not a connect that they would find with the Indians. So we have heard the panel mention about how it is so important for us to be able to connect the users, and when we have to do that, it is mostly only in their language, not just the language, but even the dialect. It is the vocabulary that they speak and so on. So over the last 10 years at Reverie that we've been working on, although we have been trying to help businesses go multilingual and reach out to many users, the thing that we have seen as the most frequently requested challenge to solve is website localization. Like Rajesh mentioned, most of the businesses today have websites, and that's the face to be able to reach out to people. But websites do get created first in English, and then it is a nightmarish thought to be able to imagine having to maintain that for 11, 12, or any number of languages one would like to localize that. and the fact that today's websites are more dynamic in nature, that you actually add content onto it very frequently. Every update that you have, you would want that to be reflected on websites, and managing that change is an even more daunting thought to have. So this being one of the most important challenges, and with many companies who have websites but do not really have a technical team to keep working on the websites, how would they be able to address this? And so we thought of coming up with a solution towards that. And without taking any additional time now, I will let Gaurav explain the challenges with this and how Anuvadak, our new product, solves this. But before we start that presentation, let me try introducing you all into this new product and just show you what exactly it is like. So here is Anuvadak, and we launch here by making the use of Anuvadak itself to localize the website of Anuvadak. So this is the website of Anuvadak, where we see we have the details about the product itself. And while I launched or clicked on the launch button, we used Anuvadak to localize this website itself, and now we have all these languages choices. So if so Hindi, if I select, now I'll be able to see the website in Hindi, right? So it's as easy as that. And so similarly, if I select Odia, which is my mother tongue, I have Anuvadak in Odia. So the website. So how did we get here? So let's now go back and look for the explanations and demo from Gaurav. Thank you all.
Thanks a lot, Vivek. Thanks for a very good introduction about the product and the problem faced by the website owners for localizing the website. And thanks everyone for setting the context about what is the importance of localization for all the businesses. So I'll be sharing my screen now. So, okay. Hi all, I am Gaurav Manchanda, and I'll be talking about website localization using Anuvadak. So let's directly first jump on the major problems, which I think Vivek has explained, but let me also give a more into it, that how exactly, what are the problems people face in website localization. So what we have done here is that we have categorized the problem into two segments. First is management of all the localized websites. So as we all aware, the websites are considered as a technical asset for the organizations, and the ownership of the website is generally taken care by the technical teams. So for the technical teams, the management of the content for all the languages in which they are going to localize or they have localized is considered as a very manual job, or it's considered as a very time-taking or a tedious job. Other than that, even if they have their website localized, for them, again, maintaining and supporting all those websites is a very time-consuming and a tedious task. So it takes a lot of technical effort. It takes a lot of manual work to make sure your websites are localized. The second segmentation which we have done is about handling translations workflow. As you all are aware that for getting website localized, you have to translate your content, right? So for that purpose, what we have done here is that we have segregated this particular problem into three parts. So the first part obviously is extracting the content from the source languages, so source website. And once they extract the content in the form of either Excel file or a CSV file or any other file format, then they have to send that particular file to the translators for getting the translations done, which itself is a very time consuming and a costly effort. And after that, once they finally get the content translated after long wait or after spending a lot of money, they have to stitch back the content to the respective language websites, which itself is a very technical job to be done. So all this, as we talked about both the categories of the problem, and let me show you that how exactly the Anuvadak platform solves both the categories of the problem seamlessly. So our solution, Anuvadak. I'll just read out the definition which we have defined for Anuvadak is. Anuvadak is a technology platform that accelerates the process of creating, launching, and optimizing websites in multiple languages. So that's a definition that we take care all of the pain, all of the hassle, which is there in maintaining and doing or getting the localized websites for the website owners. So let me talk about some of the major features and you can say the solution which Anuvadak provides. So we have a lot of automated workflows built inside Anuvadak platform, which makes sure the go-to-market for multilingual website is very fast as compared to the traditional methods which are being used before. Other than that, next very important aspect is maintaining the content. As I was talking before as well, that getting the content out, getting the translations done, and putting the content back was a very challenging and a time-consuming job. But with Anuvadak platform, we have made sure by design, the Anuvadak platform manages the content seamlessly. Either it's about updating the content on the website, or even if you want to upload your translated content to Anuvadak platform, everything will be taken care by Anuvadak platform. The next very important aspect is compatibility with the SEO. Every marketer or every website owner understands the importance of search engine optimization. And if I talk about the websites, so we make sure on Anuvadak platform, whatever the website which are being localized are always SEO compatible. So you can run your SEO strategies the way you want to run your SEO on top of our localized languages. So other than that, there are three more important features I would like to explain here. The one feature which Vivek was just explaining, that websites are being updated continuously, regularly people add the content, change the pages, or add the pages on their website. So with Anuvadak, we make sure whatever change happens on your source website is being synced with your multilingual website. So that feature, we call it as the continuous localization. Other than that, after talking to multiple website owners, they talk a lot about getting translation done by professionals because they all are looking for accurate translations, or you can say professionally done translations. So after listening to all the website owners or businesses, we have enabled Anuvadak where users can access the professional translators using Anuvadak platform. So these are the major features which I have just explained about Anuvadak. Other than that, I would also like to explain some of the other Reverie solutions which are powering the complete suite which is provided by Anuvadak platform. So first, I would like to talk about Indic fonts. So the Reverie Indic fonts are built after the consideration of the nuances of Indian languages. The fonts which are built by Reverie understand the nuances, and whatever the website which goes live with Anuvadak platforms, they by default have Reverie Indic fonts. Okay, and the next feature or next solution which we have integrated with our Anuvadak platform is our Solek Indic keyboard, which makes sure if a website owner comes to the Anuvadak dashboard, he is allowed to make edits to the translation. So if you are looking for any simple change on your website, let's say you have a sentence which you want to change, and before you used to do it in a very different way, you have to talk to the tech team to get it updated, but everything is solved with Anuvadak dashboard. You just need to go to the dashboard and edit the translation. That's it. And it will be synced in the real time. And as I was talking about access to the professional translators, so for that purpose, we have a deep integration with our in-house AI-based translation management tool. So this particular tool makes sure that translations are optimized and are done in a very timely manner. So I would also like to mention one more thing, that this particular tool, our translation management tool, we will be launching in few weeks. And I would request all of you to stay tuned for that. Now let's talk about how a user comes to Anuvadak. So once a website owner decides that he has to go for multilingual websites with Anuvadak, so our teams help them to set up the account on Anuvadak platform. So after that, the second step, that Anuvadak platform sync up your source websites and maintain that particular source website on our servers, on our Anuvadak platform. And once that setup is done, your website sync is done, we provide you an access to our Anuvadak dashboard where you can manage your localized websites. Okay, now let me show you that how exactly you can manage your localized website using Anuvadak dashboard. Okay, so as you have just seen before that Vivek has explained this particular website, which is completely in English, and if you switch it, let's say I'm more comfortable with Hindi as my mother tongue is Hindi. So I'll just move to the Hindi website and you can see the whole website is in Hindi now. And the design aspect and the structure of the website is remain same as you have seen in the English website. Now let me show you how exactly you can manage that using our Anuvadak dashboard. So once your account is set up, your website is synced, we provide you a login credential here where user can log in and go inside the dashboard. So as you can see, so this is the projects window. For every user, we allow that he can manage multiple websites using Anuvadak dashboard. So it is a very real requirement from the business that they own multiple websites and they want to manage all the websites from a single place. So that is where we have enabled with Anuvadak that you can maintain multiple websites using Anuvadak dashboard. So let's talk about the Anuvadak website, which I think I've just shown you. Let's go inside this particular website page. As you can see on the top, we have a basic set of analytics for all the multilingual websites. As you can see, you can get the site visits, the number of visits happening on your language website. You can go to any specific website and get the number. And then also we show you the total translation progress. So as explained before, I have twice explained the value of professional translation. So as you all aware, the professional translation takes a lot of time, right? As it involves human efforts. So we want to make sure the website owners gets the visibility of the progress happening for their translations. So you get the complete visibility that how exactly the translations are happening and what is the progress for that. So this is the overall progress you can see here. And if you go down, you can see we have enabled our Anuvadak website in major 11 Indian languages here. And you can also see the progress of translation for the specific website here. Now, let me go inside the Hindi website here. So let's assume a website owner, let's say this particular website is there, and he also change the content here. Okay. So I'll just go to this translation pairs and try to change something here. Let's say this is Teji se market mein jaye Anuvadak se. I'll just remove this particular text and save it. So once it is saved, you just go and refresh your page. Your page is refreshed and as well as your content is also refreshed. You can see on the live, the content is changed in the real time. Let me show you one more aspect that I was talking about the Soleil keyboard, which enables that someone can come and edit the text here. So let's say I'll add that text again. Anuvadak. So as you can see, I'm typing in English, but I'm getting suggestions in Hindi. Anuvadak se. So I have added it again. One more option is there on this particular dashboard that you can directly get a preview inside the dashboard. If you do not want to switch it to the next tab, you can just directly go here and look at this particular text is being added over there. Okay, so I'll show you one more thing about the Soleil keyboard. So let's hit remove. You can see when I click on this particular keyboard mode, you get a virtual keyboard. And you can use this particular keyboard as well for your edits for localized languages. Now let me just save it again. Also, here, if you want to manage content for other languages, same way, you can switch to the other language page and manage your content seamlessly. I think that's it around how you can manage. And other than that, if you feel any issue with the platform, you can always talk to us using this particular chat. So that's it from my end. And thanks a lot, guys, for giving some time to us. And now we are open for questions. Rajesh, over to you now.
Thanks, Vivek. Thank you, Gaurav. All right, some problem with my feed. Okay. Right. Thank you so much once again. And dear all participants, we are open for Q&A. Please feel free to write your questions in the Q&A section. And as they appear, I'll start taking them up and will request the concerned person to respond. Go ahead, please. First question is, are you using human translation or machine translation output? Gaurav, if you want to take that.
So whatever I have shown you right now is a human translated content, and this particular website is integrated with our in-house translation management tool. From there, we are getting a translation and we're showing it here. So in a brief, yes, it is human translated content.
Right. So before I take up the next question, I quickly wanted to summarize, right? So Anuvadak is a platform and content is a part of it. How the content needs to be converted, translated, standardization, consistency, etc. All of that is decided by the client itself. Once client does that, then the same solution is plugged into Anuvadak. Just wanted to be very clear on that. Who takes care of UI changes in the localized website? Vivek, if you want to take that.
Yeah. In fact, I was trying to answer some of the questions right there. And so the UI changes.
Vivek, we lost you there.
I think I can answer it. Please.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, Vivek, I'll answer that. So it depends. Actually, if you are having a lot of changes or your complete website is not built considering website and localization, then you have to take care of that. The client has to take care of that. And if there's any changes, you can say any small changes need to be there, we will take care of that. And I'll mention one more point here is that we try to remain whatever the website look and feel is there in your English website. We make sure the same look and feel is enabled on the, you can say, the localized website. But sometimes what happens that some of the websites are not enabled or not built after consideration of website localization. So from there and on that perspective, you might have to make some changes, but generally it doesn't happen. And in most of the cases, we take care of all the website structure changes. I hope I answered that question.
Sure, thank you. There are a couple of questions around pricing, so I'll club them together. It's essentially a subscription model, and that is how the pricing will be structured, and we'll be publishing that shortly. Very interesting question. Why should I use Anuvadak when Google Translate is free? Who says Google Translate is free? So I think something wrong with the question. And let me change. If maybe the user wanted to know that why should they use Anuvadak instead of Google Translate? Gaurav, you want to take that quickly?
Yeah. So I'll just take it very quickly and explain in two perspectives. First is the websites which are localized by Google Translate plugin, which you generally integrate on your website, is not SEO optimized. So it doesn't enable you to run your SEO on top of that particular localized website because that particular translations or the localizations are happening on the client side. So any search engine doesn't understand that particular website is localized and it's also available in other languages. Other than that, a very important aspect for the better user experience and trust, your content is generally not generally, it's always machine translated. And till now, the machine translated content is not accurate. And sometimes you write your creative content as well on the website. So that is something cannot be taken care by the machine translations, which Google plugin provides. So in that case, Anuvadak provides you an option that you can make sure that you can have complete control on your content. So I think I answered the question.
Thanks, Gaurav. Mithun, here is a question I will request you to take. How long will it take to translate English website and go live in Indian languages?
Wow, interesting question. I think, what I will say is as long as it takes for you to release a PO to me. So, yeah, I think you would have seen in the demo and the presentation as well that our endeavor here is to make website localization as easy as possible. So, I think the time it takes is only to get the content localized. Beyond that, it's just a matter of few hours and few tweaking and tuning into your existing website, and you are just ready to go live in any number of languages you want to.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Mithun. Last one here, Mithun, since you're there, which languages are supported currently? And I will make that a last question of the day because we are running out of the time. And rest of the participants who have a query, you can drop us an email, and any which ways we'll be sending a formal message out. Mithun, please.
I think Anuvadak is that's a very good question and important aspect here. I think Anuvadak is designed in a way that it is language agnostic. It can actually take your website into a local language of your choice, irrespective of which language you choose, be it Indian or any international language. However, if you want to use some of our optional services in terms of machine translation or the keypad, those will be restricted to the Indian languages right now. But beyond that, from a technology standpoint, from a product standpoint, there is no other limitation in terms of languages.
Right. Thank you, Mithun. And with that, I would like to close our session today. A big thank you to everybody who joined in, all the participants, all the panelists who were here earlier. Thank you so much. And by the way, one quick message. We will be having another product launch fairly soon. Maybe in a fortnight or so. So stay tuned. We will give you a heads up for that as well. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you so much.